Everyone, this is Ahmad Moradi. I have my colleagues, Mr. Vijay and Maddie today with me, and we're going to be talking about some interesting topic that we feel again is important to inform, communicate, and educate. And today's conversation is going to be mostly about the application of real-time communication, things that we are doing actually, along with some of the statistics, assets, content, third-party information that we're going to bring you that it relates to artificial intelligence. One of our vision and aspiration is always been and has and will continue to be, just because of my personal passion from many years ago, from 1986 until now, being involved in artificial intelligence and expert system. I always try to look at how can we improve and utilize AI where applicable into our business solution. And we praise the ones that they look and think that way. So along with that, we always continue with our research. And we'd like to share some of this research with you. So with that in mind, Maddie, if you push the screen share button and broadcast our page, then I can process the presentation. One of the ways that we look at things is real-time communication, which is the foundation of what we're doing here, really creates a point of inception. Point of inception is when you attend to a given meeting, right? To a connection, to a session, or in a digital media room like what we have. And along with that, we try to understand the marriage of real-time communications with, call it the protocols of different settings that we have. I would say about a couple of years ago, I guess, we wrote an article. I wrote an article about why real-time communication becomes an integral part of Internet of Everything. This was a foundation that we wanted to educate people that AI and IoT and real-time communication, they have to get married for many reasons, from signal processing. You don't want all of a sudden you turn on your electricity and your faucet turns on, and you don't want your water to turn off and all of a sudden your bathroom flushes. Things like that, you really have to look at it from signal. And at the same time, so as manufacturers are making their devices smarter, and the first thing they do is make it web-enabled so they can pass and exchange information. And with the advent of technologies that we are talking about, electronics and global market now presents a multitude of opportunities. And these opportunities now are growing, and we are in the midst of what we call the rat race now. And the rat race research provided by FMI in 2015, this research showed a trend from 2014 to 2025. But fundamentally, one thing that it becomes really, really valuable and important is understanding where we were and what we are doing. So I like to take you to a little journey first of what I call, WebRTC. WebRTC, actually, a lot of people in the history of it are not familiar with it, so we decided that best is, before we talk about AI, spend a few minutes and talk about the WebRTC history. In February 2010, Google actually acquired a company called Onto. It was a video codec company that they were providing technologies that we are using right now called VPA, and there is VP9 and other derivatives. And then it produced this codec as a replacement that their goal was to really go after standards of H2.264, 265, and some of the standards that if you're into encoding and media and delivery services, you're familiar with these terms. So we take that as a, kind of a advantage. But once they acquired and they built the GeoIP on the JIP side with the media framework in May 2010, Google made it into open source. Okay, and that's how the birth of WebRTC really came together. The first group that they joined that research study was Ericsson Lab, because at that time they were also working on the 5G, and they were trying to introduce a series of new technologies. Now that years later, we are going to become the future beneficiary of these technologies. So as these kind of settings went, then they started meeting with the guys that we call IETF. These are Internet Explorer or Internet Engineering Task Force. Then you have the W3C guys, and you got the IEEE guys, and they got together and they started preparing papers, research, and so forth that now became, where in November 2011, WebRTC, through our data channel capabilities that was not supported, became the first main focus on what we are talking about. During this process, we were working as engineering company, as NETSTAIRS, mostly with Adobe Flash and Adobe ActionScript, Flash Media Servers, Wowza, Akamai, and many other media streaming services that we used to integrate into our IB8 middleware platforms. So we had a vast knowledge of experience ahead of time that we knew these kind of things are happening. Companies like Firefox, they started getting into this business of open, and in fact, they got funded by groups like Telefonica for $150 million to integrate the WebRTC into Mozilla and Firefox. And then as API and other solutions and so forth started getting introduced to the market, as you can see, then this timeline started expanding, that we are going into the area where back in 2010, we started envisioning that WebRTC becomes the next generation of catalyst, replacing integrated into HTML5 for web delivery. And with that in mind, so we started putting on R&D, our resources, years of funding and everything else, till you see what you see today. Okay, so we really want to bring you to this history or background because it gives you a little visual. Then in 2015 ourselves, we started introducing, along with the industry, and this is where you're going into the sign of where we talked about alpha, then beta, and then we came into production, and now we are into expansion. I'm also pleased at this time to make a few announcements on behalf of our company. We have officially signed a major contract for the Latin American market, where we will be building a whole global presence in the next few years. And this global presence is going to bring two sorts of revenue streams, both from consumer side and the business side. And along with that, WIPO also signed a major contractual obligation and deal as consulting in Southeast Asia, encompassing the whole Asian market where we can build ICDN. So interactive content delivery network that we are building now is going to be GRID. It's going to be geo-IP based, and we are going to build that by different settings that the industry requires, like you see in here, by application or by development or by service type or verticals or regional split. And as you can see, this growth is really exponential in terms of market. So one of the areas that it really becomes prudentially important is improving an understanding of AI into this workspace, real-time communication. So for those of you who really want to get your hands kind of down and dirty, I would suggest you to go look into some of the OpenAI, okay? OpenAI has very good source of papers, documentations, white papers, and so forth, that you can get started with the abstract and understanding of how we can start with the pre-training, because machines are stupid. They don't have the knowledge. And you have to take the knowledge and the science of AI and apply it to a use. If you don't use it in a practical application, then humanity cannot benefit from it. And that is one of the reasons that we try to always be proactive and inform some of the opportunities that it exists. One of the areas that everybody talks about is digital dividends, okay? And the dividends are going to come from investment. For example, not to get into the political side of the equation, but countries like China, with Andrew Ng and with Baidu and many others, are building militaries of PhDs and AI scientists in terms of 1,400, 1,500 people that they can collaborate and bring their mind together to build the next generation of economy. Mr. Putin believes that those who control AI will control the world. And we believe on the business side, on the commerce, where we extend our knowledge to education, to medicine, to law, to integrations with BFSI and banking and insurance, digital dividend becomes extremely valuable, including for media and entertainment. So one of the areas that we are going to be focusing on application of AI and development of this series, so to speak, where we can essentially be able to accommodate services that makes it useful for our clients. Uh, Along with that, one of the areas that I wanted to expose you to is Intel has started a program that is called the Parallel Universe. We are going to ourselves get into this area. We are working, actually signed up and partnering and trying to explore and learn where the parallel universe with quantum computing and computer learning language that Intel, Google, and qubits and quantum computing is taking us. So our decisions are how can we work with you, how can we make things better, and how can we simplify your life without really taking your sovereignty as a client. So one of the areas that we always look at these areas is languages, technologies, integrations. We are right now at NETSTAIRS planning to help some of our strategic partners, such as WIPO Corporation, with two strategies. And these two strategies are going to provide consumer level with the technology and solution that they can reach out, along with what we call the area of business integration. As system integrators, which I have been doing that for the last 40 some years of my life, we look at people's, whether open source, proprietary technology, integration of the equipment, hardware, software, where we can integrate this and create a greater value and a solution. So with this kind of setting that you can see, there are obviously areas that we suggest to you that you should explore. And if you need those links, let us know. Send us an email to inquiry@netstairs.com or at info@wipocorp.com or to other our strategic partners. And we will be able to send you some of this information and share that with you. But the general idea is that these initiatives that are taking place on open web platform, so to speak, gives us the ability to bring intellectual properties, share knowledge, collaborate, and adopt, and then use that into areas where obviously corporations can utilize it or businesses can use it for their own use and application. So one of the areas that, again, we're going to be talking about is real-time communication and electronics, but with development centers that we are looking at and going into the market where, as you can see, there is a lot of volumes of documents in here, is being able to look at real-time communication as a platform and then use that as a way of providing services. So one of the areas that we are looking at is real-time communication creates point of inception with AI. So from that point of communication, we like to see things to happen from customer relation management, for example, where you can come into a room and if there is not a live operator, an AI can guide you or walk with you. Along with that, we are working with some of our partners in Australia in some of their AI assistants to empower this kind of room, that these rooms can become script-oriented for your AI use and application. And Maddie, if you can remove the screen share for a few minutes and just leave it on the background, I like to find one of my presentations so I can display in here and then share a group of colleagues that they have done study. Again, you can put that on the screen share back. There is a research group called Cranky Geek Research. This group, they are doing a series of research on combination of AI and RTC. Credit goes to Mr. Chad Hart and Sahil Levin. They have formed a consulting company that basically talks about integration of this. But I want to point out some of the areas that they are doing extensive research in white paper and through various schools and so forth. is in speech analytics, for example. Like these rooms, we are right now equipped with data that we can build voice commands, or we can order things verbally to the system, right? So this kind of activities from speech analytics, understanding commands, understanding the chain of action and reaction on the command line, they all become part of the scenario. So for example, if you're working in a banking scenario versus a media viewing a, let's say, sport event, these are two different knowledge skills by AI. Okay, so AI cannot satisfy something on the media side of the equation while you're doing a banking. In the future, eventually, as AI knowledge gets built out and they get integrated together, yes. But initially, in this phase of life that we are the catalyst working in that area, we are trying to focus in certain parts of real-time communications and use of that into AI. The other part that I just mentioned to you is voice bots. These are automated programs that interact with the user in conversational dialogue, built-in speech, such as interactive voice response that you have seen like in Alexa or in Siri or Google and so forth. So these voice bots also can become programmable in this kind of rooms. And these voice bots can become really a help desk. For example, one of the ways we work as a company is we always look at our balance of our AI versus our labor. We try to delegate as much as work toward machine automations and functions and have our human to manage those machines and automations and AI. So organizations like us always intend to stay small, but work intellectually through several ways by delegating to AI, to third parties, and partnering and collaborating with our strategic PTLA partners, where they ultimately become our command center, our NOC operation that they manage those grids. The other subject that you really want to talk about is computer vision, programs that analyze and understand image and so forth. This is where I wanted to take you to the parallel universe. With the parallel universe, there are algorithms that has already been developed at the chipset level, okay, that you can incorporate within a language and bring that in here. So all of a sudden I can identify, let's say doing a blockchain technology. Let's say we want to do a transaction between BJ and Maddie, and we don't know if BJ is the right person. So therefore, with that, we can connect that facial recognition into a database for a corporate, and then that corporate can authenticate that BJ is the right person. Same thing with Maddie from a supply chain point of view. And then when they're doing a commerce and a transaction, you can create this session and add it as a video library into the blockchain. So therefore, others who want to do business with Maddie or VJ, they can create the original source of reference or validate it, what we call the trust factor. So this kind of issue is extremely important in strategies that we are building with the computer vision. So one of the areas that NETSTAIRS is going to be heavily involved and focusing on the AI side, along with the speech analytics and voice bots that we are partnering with, is into computer vision. Then another area that is extremely important for us is Rtc optimization. Machine learning methods used to improve voice, media quality of cost performance. These are what we call the holy grail. These don't exist right now, unfortunately. And there is a lot of theories behind it. But one of the advantages that we have now, because of years of working and being in the industry and really understanding the requirements of these settings, although we are heading toward the same journey along with our partners, but as you can see, companies like Amazon, Google, IBM, Microsoft, they're all trying to come up with different APIs to create optimization for different RTC providers. Our vision relatively works out in a way that we want to build a global ICDN, and this ICDN comes from different point of entries. And then we are building those in a way that through machine learning, then first, which we have been working actually in partnership with Google team for over 28 months now, we are proud to introduce the first early release of our ICDN, which in fact we intend to invite a few hundred people for what we call where the rubber meets the road. So we can start putting things into crunch, testing, and get some feedback from all of our colleagues. So if you're interested to work with us on that side of the equation, again, just drop us a line or text us on any of the social media messages, and we'll include you into our invite. We're going to set a date and a time, and we're going to invite you so we can have a real-time experience. And while you're looking at the back of the machine, so to speak, and see, are these dummies, AIs, are learning, or are they really still stupid? And that's where we are really going into this learning curve with our AI and machine learning and load balancing and all of these containers and settings. But ultimately, once everything is built, I used to do this back in the early 90s for Siemens and a company that I used to manage called DXOs. That it was ultimately acquired by Siemens. We used to write least cost routings for set-top boxes and for connectivity, but on analog lines those days. Now with the digital optimization and so forth with the VoIP, our goal is to mitigate the cost of transport for our partners. So our goal ultimately on RTC optimization is to make the machines smart, scalable, that they can, like an accordion, elastically grow as volume grows for our partners and reduce themselves elastically back to the core as origin. So origin, CDN, edge, servers, along with AI, machine learning, least cost routing, and all of those brings a whole new library of real-time communication optimization, algorithms, patents, improvement IPs, and so forth. So I just want you all to understand that this journey that we are taking, we are not by no means at the end of it. In fact, we've been digging the hole and the ground. So now that we are paving this road for the next 9 years, and we are excited about it because it has literally taken us about, in certain cases, 6.5, 7 years to build the road. And now that we are feeling kind of confident that we can start launching this 2018 by Christmas, we will be introducing a series of consumer lines founded on RTC and communication. And then we're going to be introducing a series of business integration, including AI and services that you see in here. So use cases, as you can see in here, is on speech analytic. This is really good for call centers, for biometric authentication, okay, for unified communication from one system to another system, for enterprise knowledge management, so you can collect data, like every time you're here, Pixel collects data. We don't sell data, first of all, we want you to all know. We always sell software as a service or platforms or infrastructures. So data is sacred to us. So with that, we normally now try to work in an area of biometric and transcriptions, and also build out enterprise knowledge management, sales coaching. And one of the areas that we are actually starting is in education. But Pearson recently sent us some information because we are working with Pearson to bring English classes throughout the world. Initially, it's going to start in the state of Florida, in Orlando. Some of our sponsors that we are seeking right now are the people that are catalysts, like CEO of Disney at Disney University, that we will be talking to them about providing these classrooms to our students and so forth. So, and to their employees. The other thing is voice bots that I talked about, is the IVR, the outbound reach, the real-time agent assistance, digital assistant that can follow you. That is one of the things that we like to build eventually into our room, that your AI assistant knows how you want to communicate into this room with your colleagues and your constituents and your social media. So through your different devices, from your watch to your phone, to your tablet, to your phablet, to your TV, or to your video wall, or any of these other things, you can have a real-time communication with your constituents. Obviously, customer engagement and campaign tracking and start conferencing, room control, and all of these features that you're seeing that we have already built in here is already part of these web bots. On our vision, as you just saw, You see some of the areas that we're talking about. I don't want to expand on those subjects because they are require additional time, and we're really running out of time, so I will not take a lot of time talking about issues like profanity, like nudity detections, for example, preventing body gestures, facial tracking, facial recognitions. All of these things comes from computer vision and imaging. And RTC optimization, like we talked about, is loss of packets of data that it's completely, if you have ever had videos and experiences, you know you have latencies, you have dropout, you have lack of lip services. All of a sudden, you see all suddenly mouth is moving, audio is not there, or the audio is ahead of the mouth. These kind of things are really about optimization. So when we are talking about engineering and so forth, we want you to understand that behind the scene, we sweat a lot. Some of these sweatings are sleepless nights that we have to work together, collaborate to build dynamics. So right now, where are the RTC heading to? And this is one of the areas that the market should look at it as education. Improve customer satisfaction. This is really, it's all about customer experience at the end of the day. If you are in a business and you're doing e-commerce, or you're selling, or you're servicing, or you have an online presence, you're doing yourself an injustice if you do not think of real-time communication as the foundation of your future communication. Why? Because we all need communications. That's why you use your text messaging, your WhatsApp, your phone, all of these devices, just to stay in connect with people, right? So through looking at this, where the trend is going, you either become a user or you become a provider. You either become a provider in your own organization or you become an aggregator. So in this service, improving customer satisfaction, customer expectation through AI feature is predictive analysis. You know, what does your customer want from you? You know, what are their expectations? For example, we are working on an example. We found one of the most unique pizza maker who lives in a village in Italy. And he has one of the most unique flavor of pizza that it's known all over Italy. So we're going to bring that guy and his services all over the world, because this is where exposure takes place. You can be local, but you can have active visual exposure through AI. And AI can help you through social media to expose you and bring you more orders. So this kind of opportunities, you got to look at it from customer expectation. As human, we respect them. We want them to collaborate, broadcast, and communicate, but we also want them to know, what do they want? What is their vision? What is their mission? What is their goal? Objectives. We call them VM Go. Then we build our BTV, which we call briefing, timeline, and budget, because without those, nothing can happen. Then when you go into those drivers of reducing headcounts, like we are doing, minimize the staffing, I have been doing this from 80s, unfortunately, or fortunately. If you would ever come to my headquarter office, you would find a lot of empty cubby holes, and you would find core employees, and everybody who would take a tour of my office, they would ask, why do you have so many empty cubby holes? I said, to you it's empty. These are machines are working, doing their jobs. And that's where I started from the AI side. Automating redundancy. Always question the question, okay, first of all. And ask yourself, if you're repeating something, how can you make AI to take over that job, to free you so you can go into a higher elevation, your creativity, your time zone, and understanding. So with that in mind, again, we're going to go into growing availability of AI tools. This is really exploding in this time and zone, which is great because we can be everything to everybody. And that's one of the reasons we embrace the industry and partners to work, collaborate, and build greater value for everyone, okay? And then, unfortunately, you have a lot of handicaps, inhibitors call it. We don't have enough qualified people, so there is an investment that you have to make on people, and that's what we do at NETSTAIRS. We work with our family for years. We earn their trust, they earn us, and we work collaboratively to make sure that they are well taken care of. And we are also doing the same thing. So, and we want to make some of these use cases, instead of making it unclear, because I have years of experience from healthcare field and AI and so forth, we don't have unclearance on our use cases. Actually, we are very clear in our use cases. That is one of our advantages. The other thing that we can definitely talk about is security and privacy concerns. Ultimately, AI has to become the gatekeeper of your protection, because one of the areas is that bad guys will always be there and ugly guys are going to always be there. So good, bad, and ugly who coexist in this planet, you're going to face with it. So therefore, we have been also attacked ourselves. We have been blessed with our team that they have been vigilant, resilient, and we have rescued ourselves, unlike companies that they had to spend over $870 million to save and rescue themselves. Okay, so this is an area that we really treasure. We work with a lot of our partners from different parts of the world, and we value that because this is great for humanity. Okay, nothing more than that. And also system integration. We've been a system integrator for many years, so we understand. And a lot of these things that we see already, we built it and we have proven it. And if you go to our timeline, you're going to see tons of history, over 400 of them actually. The ROI for a lot of people that they feel is not clear is actually not true. Again, because we have been ahead of this curve, so therefore we can give you those inhibitors as an advantage. This is where if you talk with individuals or call consultants, they lack those expertise under inhibitors. They're trying to drive you, but if they don't have that offset cover, that driver is going to fail. So you're going to have to look at this as a half glass full, half glass empty. And you're going to have to work with a group of scientists and colleagues that not only you trust from your blockchain point of view, but also building the chain of trust that they can carry you for the years to come. So this is one of the areas that I wanted you to be knowledgeable about. The other slide that I'm not going to get into is get into market dynamics. I probably leave that as another session and talk about the AI, but I just wanted you to know that these gentlemen, that credit is deserved, I'm going to them, is Chad Hart, and his website is WebRTC Hacks and Cognate.ai, and you can talk to him, who has prepared along with Sashi here, and we capitalize on their white paper, on their ebook to just educate you and tell you that these are the subjects and topics that you need to be aware of on the AI side, and get yourself into an area that you prepare yourself. Because if you don't, your competition probably already doing it behind the scenes without letting you know, or they are already have initiatives that is going to give them a competitive edge. And don't forget, 52% of Fortune 500s in the last decade are gone. Okay, that gives you an indication that if you are thinking and not acting, then you're really not doing it justice to yourself, because you're going to lose your competitiveness and market opportunity. And as Moore's law is expanding the technology acceleration, you're just going to become more obsolete. So decide, choose a pathway, partner with the people that you feel you can trust. They can guide and navigate you. And we hope you look upon us as NETSTAIRS and VIPA and our strategic partners around the globe, that we can bring you those services. With that in mind, again, I want to thank you all for attending our session today, and have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week again. Cheers for now.